I'm TerryTopCat for TerryTopCat Purrsents for clusterview.com, and this is my first time on the Zoom, and I'm with the wonderful Stevo. So good afternoon, my brother. See, it's morning in LA, and I'm doing about 5 o'clock on a beautiful sunny day. We got LA weather today.
I brought that to you, Terry.
You certainly did. And you brought me so much joy because I've been a Terence Trent Darby, now called Sananda Maitreya, fan from the beginning, actually. So I went to all the classic venues in the UK before you joined the band. But I want to talk about you first before we talk about Sananda, who's Terence Trent Darby's now called Sananda Maitreya. So I was reading your biog, and you've got a lot of brothers and sisters. And when you were growing up, obviously music was played in your house. And so do you have older brothers and sisters, or?
I have one older brother who recently passed. I'm the third of 6 siblings.
Okay, so your parents played music in your house?
Yeah, man, always. My mom and dad are both born and raised in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the vibe of New Orleans is always a part of our house. It's always a part of our life. It's still a part of my life. I made a record that was actually inspired by New Orleans culture, but my dad specifically is a jazz fiend. He passed in 2019. He was a jazz fiend his whole life and a true patron and supporter of all the arts, but specifically jazz. He knew all the cats, we talk jazz all the time. I love jazz because of him, and it's just been a part of my life. I'm sure, like when I was in the womb, I was hearing Miles Davis or something, You mean? So he was a big music fan. My mom is very musical, actually, and her father, she likes to tell me about her father. I never met him. He passed when she was young. But he was a musician. He played trumpet and piano, and like he did the marching band thing, the brass band thing. And she tells me, I can't prove the shit, but she tells me that her father taught Louis Armstrong, when he was a kid in one of the orphanages there in New Orleans. So I believe it's a combination of those influences, but I'm pretty sure that I'm a musician because of my grandfather, who I never met. Like, this cat was a player. Wow. He couldn't make a living, just playing. So like most musicians of that time, he was a carpenter. And he did that to feed his family, but his love was music. So it's that, genetically it's that. And then it's my father, his love, man. Like, he just really loves music. He played piano, and there was just always music around. And everywhere I went, Terry, like, there's always been music. So this shit is meant to be.
Absolutely. So also in your bio, but you were, your parents or in your household, you're playing, esteemed artists like the Beatles and Rolling Stones, who happen to be playing Hyde Park this Saturday, 60th anniversary. Can you believe it? They've been going that long.
That's cool.
And also, I mean, I love all the, the soul greats like Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. So, it was a quite eclectic music was played in your household, right?
Definitely. And never, I never even gave a second thought about styles and what I should be listening to and what I shouldn't be listening to. And thankfully, the cats I was rolling with back then felt the same way. So yeah, it was always, if it was good music, if it was great music, then we're down with it. So it was definitely straight ahead jazz. It was definitely soul music. Right. Like the people you mentioned are like in my foundation.
And Motown, I'm sure. Motown.
Always.
Because I went and saw Diana Ross last week. So she'd been doing like a UK tour. I think she's going to Vegas. And, the woman's like late 70s, 80s, and still got that vibe, still got that energy. Of course, she can have the best cats playing with her, and the band were amazing. But, I think, especially with COVID, which we'll come on to and stuff like that, and musicians not working and the crews and all that stuff, it's just so great, one, to see live music, and as a musician and the crews and all that, I know everyone who works behind the scenes, it must be great for you to be playing live again. But, you know, I just wanted to make the point, it's just great to see all these living legends before, sadly, they pass, you know.
It's a beautiful thing, man, and I'm really grateful to be playing with musicians. I was playing last night. My cousin has a New Orleans Creole restaurant out in Claremont.
Lovely.
And we do Tuesday nights there, man. And I'm playing with like some beautiful musicians, seasoned veterans, you know.
Right.
And we're just so happy every Tuesday night because it's pretty effortless, you know. Like when we hit, we all kind of have the same foundations musically, you know. It's definitely soul music, you know, for all of us. It's definitely jazz. With me, there's a heavy rock foundation as well. But when we play, man, it just, you know what I mean? Like it just comes together, and I have guys who listen to each other. You know, it's the kind of people I like and the kind of musicians I like. I like to have sensitive players who listen, who are, you know, like all about the team. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any knuckleheads in my band ever. Like I don't do that. So it's a joyful thing, Terry. And I don't take it for granted, especially after COVID, you know, when we all had to kind of lay back for those couple of years. So I really appreciate it. And you're right. There is something magical about people together in a place, in a space. And that goes for the people on stage and the people in the audience. Like the audience is 50% of the vibe. And it's a cyclical thing. You know what I'm talking about. It's what you feel. That's why it's so great.
You know, I mean, I've got massive music collection, either vinyl, CDs, cassette. I'm old school. Don't really like downloads. But for me, it's always about the live performances. So since 1982, and Shalimar were the first artists I ever saw when I was at Wembley Arena, that wonderful Jodie Watley, and you've worked with Howard Hewitt. So, you know, for me, it's always about the live gigs, you know, because with most musicians, especially nowadays with the technology, they can make music in their bedrooms. They don't have to go to a really expensive studio. So for me, it's like you say, the interaction with the audience, the seeing the actual players play, the characters of the musicians. It's just a magical thing, you know. Like one of my favorite concerts ever, which we'll come on to, you played at the Hollywood Bowl, and I saw Grace Jones there, and that was just something I'll never forget, because, you know, beautiful evening in LA, in the most amazing venue, seeing an incredible artist. So it's about, like you say, for the players, it's a magical thing with the vibe and the energy with you guys, and as music fans and the audience, you get that vibe, and you hear all your favorite songs, and you see how the artists and musicians perform as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example of being in the moment.
Yes, absolutely.
And those are moments, like you can record them, you can listen to them, you know, and they're still great, but nothing's greater than being there.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't. It's like when you see a photo of a beautiful place, it's really enticing and gorgeous, but it can't compare to actually being there. You know, and smelling it and feeling it, you know, and getting the vibrations. So that ain't never gonna change, Terry. Like that we all have that need to connect. So that's just a beautiful place for people to connect, and I'm glad I'm a part of it.
So I'll quickly fast forward. So you learned drums or congos first when you were about 14, 15. You start playing the drums. So when did it transpire from you to start learning the drums to actually start professionally playing with cats and other musicians or recording?
Yeah, well, you know, actually, my dad got me piano lessons when I was like 10 years old.
Right.
And I was good. I was good, man. The gift was coming through, and I was enjoying it. What happened is that I also discovered baseball around that same time, and when I was like doing that, I was like, "Oh, this is the shit that I want to do." So I stopped with the piano, but I still play a little bit. That's one of my regrets, is that I stopped, because I feel like I could be a good player. But I've always been a natural drummer, you know, and I didn't even know it. It wasn't until like an older cat who's a friend of mine, like family to me. You know, my best friend at the time, this cat named Richard Stanchmore. This is actually another beautiful blessing. Richard Stanchmore, I met him when I was in 2nd grade. This just happened, man. His brother had a record collection that's probably like yours. It was like a fucking record store. And he stayed on top of his shit, you know, so Coltrane, Miles, Santana, Hendrix, Beatles, Stones, you know, Freddie Hubbard, like the greatest shit. So I had direct access to all these records. So I was getting it like that. And I tell people that I was becoming a musician before I even knew it, just because of the listening that I was doing. But so Richard's sister was dating, her name is Judy. She was dating a cat named Paul Pete, who's also from New Orleans. I don't know how this shit happens. He used to play congas, and we used to go over there and hang out, smoke weed, and listen to music. And he was like playing along to like probably Blackbirds, Donald Byrd and Blackbirds. And I was like, "Hey man, can I try?" And I just started hitting them and playing along. He was like, "Yo man, you sound good. Like you should play." And I told him, he recently passed. I told him for the rest of my life, I said, "Paul, I'm a musician because of you." He's like, "What are you talking about? What I do?" I said, "Man, you just said the right thing at the right time." And it was a nothing, Terry. It was a nothing to him. It was just a throwaway.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
He touched you and it meant something to you, and that inspired you to kind of start your journey.
It did. It meant something to me because of who it was coming from.
Right.
He was an older cat, and I respected him, and I had a lot of love for him. He had a lot of love for me too, but he just said it because he felt it, you know. And when I went home, I was just thinking about, I was like, shit, I could actually be a musician. Like that would be the coolest thing. So it was just that. It was just somebody. My dad wasn't really. I mean, he loved music, but he wasn't wired to promote it as a career. Right. You know, like he's an academic, he's a scientist, he's a physician, you know, he went to med school when he was 40. He's a brilliant man. So he was wired to be like, play music for fun, get a real job so you can, you know, make money and take care of your family. It's good advice. I told him it's good advice. It's just not, you know, my road. But so Paul put the idea in my head. And once that happened, I was there. You know, I was like, I'm heading down that road. So I got the congas because my dad would buy that for me. And I got the first drum set. When I moved down to Orange County, my dad went to school. We moved from LA down to Orange County, is a little suburb south of LA. Dude, when I moved into the student housing, there was some kids my age on the ground floor. Motherfuckers had a drum set.
Great.
So, I mean, just like the universe was conspiring in ways that I am not going to fight. I'm not going to fight. And why would I? So it just kind of like, I tell people that the drums chose me. You know what I mean? Because I feel that way. Like that shit was just meant to be. So I had a drum set I could play. And then there was a guy in that neighborhood who had a kid. And he's like, "Oh, hey, man, I'll teach you drums if you show me some congas." So it just was all, you know, the universe was like saying, "Hey, man, we're going to help you do this."
Wonderful. So I'm very aware that because of the Zoom, and I've only got about 40 minutes. So I want to go on to how you met. It was called at the time Terence Trent Darby, Sananda Maitreya. So big love to Sananda and to Francesca all the way in Milan.
Absolutely.
I went to see them in 17, 18. So obviously it was very different because when I first met you, it was on the Vibrator tour, and that was 1995, all those years ago. And I was hanging out with you guys, primarily with the wonderful Luis Montoya. And I went to Paris and Madrid and Barcelona and all the UK tour. So how did you get to meet Sananda? We'll call him by his real name now. Sananda Maitreya.
Yeah. Well, I met Sananda. It's a bit of a fluke, Terry. There's a good friend of mine named Jeffrey Connor, who's a bass player here in LA, who called me and told me about the audition. And that was in 93. And of course I had heard of Terence Trent Darby. You know, when that first record came out, like we were on it. Everybody was on it. I was like, who is this dude? Like, I mean, just his voice, just the sound of his voice, first off. And then his delivery and his swag, you know, I was like, yeah, this is a real artist here. Like, and he was writing, you know, I was like, what the fuck? And we thought that he was British, you know. All of us thought, it wasn't until I met him that I found out he grew up in Florida, which was cool. So he told me about the audition. And to be honest, Terry, at that point in 93, I was more focused on writing and producing. And I had a friend here in LA who had his own label, an indie label called Wild West Records. And he had signed me to a little publishing deal. And it was like hip hop, actually, like West Coast hip hop. And so I was trying to like make records with him. So when Jeffrey called me and told me about the audition, I was like, hey man, that's really cool. I'm glad that you called me. Thank you very much. I'm kind of moving in a different direction, you know, but I appreciate the call. And then he said something key to me. There's been key things that people have said to me throughout my life. He said, and it was very simple. He goes, well, what do you got to lose? And I didn't have a good answer, Terry. I was like, well, I did have a good answer, which was nothing.
Exactly.
I have nothing to lose. So I went to the audition, and I think that actually worked in my favor because I wasn't like so stressed about it. Like, I need this gig, you know, and you're all tight and you're not like flowing like you need to flow. So I went there. I was like, you know, I love this dude. I think he's dope, you know, and it's worth checking out. So I think when I came in, that energy was what kind of made it special for me and for him and for the band members. Because listen, man, Terence and I were raised on the same shit.
Yeah,
musically, right?
Absolutely.
You know, we're close in age, and I really got where he was coming from as an artist. You know, I loved how he was blending styles. That's how I grew up, you know, and that's natural for me. I mean, we're blended, you know, ethnically. You know what I mean? So we kind of like, we could connect on various levels, right? Musically, personally, in terms of you know, our backgrounds and things like that. So so when I came in, I was just having fun, you know? And so I did that first audition. It felt good. They called me back. Terence wasn't at the first audition, by the way. It was just the band. And
Okay.
Stevie Salas, the guitar player, was running things. So he's like, hey, we'll bring you back and Terence will be here. And so I came back the next day. We did it again. Shit was rocking. You know, Terence was there, and whenever he was in the room, the energy level just like, woo, you know, because like he's here and he's doing his thing. So it was really exciting. And like we went into Jumping Jack Flash, and it was like, man, this shit is hot. This shit is hot. Like, it just felt good. So I think after everyone had auditioned, Stevie came out and told me that they wanted me to do the gig, and Terence came out and talked to me, and he told me that he'd have to tell the story, but there was like maybe a psychic, you know, that he had spoken to prior to this audition, and the psychic was telling him, you know, I think you're gonna have a drummer from New Orleans.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And that shit happened, you know, and so I mean, I'm raised in LA, but my people are from New Orleans, so it's in me. So I, you know, once again, the universe, God, you know, conspiring to make things happen. So I really met him on a fluke, and I didn't think much of it, which worked in my favor. And you know, from that point, man, we just hit the ground running. Like, I think that was like April '93. And then by May, June, you know, like we were out on the road. And I think I sent you some photos, and one of them was us with Duran Duran. Like, that was the first real run. I was like, shit, man, I'm on the road with Terence Trent Darby. I'm opening up for Duran Duran. We're going around the country. and we're doing it. I was like, this is the shit.
And Duran were, well, still are actually really big in the States.
Dude, they had a hit. They had a hit that was Ordinary World.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that was a great song. Yeah.
So they were actually experiencing a resurgence, you know, and so we were kind of riding that with them. So it was awesome, man. But yeah, like I think the first gig I did with Terence, we got on a private jet and flew to Boston and did, you know, a festival there. I was like, hell yes.
I kind of fast forward a couple of years. I met you, all of you guys. I couldn't find the photo with you, but I found one with Lewis and Kevin. And it was like amazing. You had amazing bands. It was Dave Judy on keyboards when I went. You on drums, Kevin Fortune on bass, Lewis Matoya on guitars. And
what'd you call him, Kevin?
Was it not Kevin Fortune? No, not Kevin.
Kevin Wyatt.
Kevin Wyatt. That's it. Sorry, I got to know another guy. Kevin Wyatt, who had the falsetto as well. And you would do the BVs as well. And it was just, you know, and I loved, did you actually do any of the recording of the Vibrator album? Were you guys all on the album as well?
No, that was recorded before I met him. Okay. He brought us in the studio in '94 to record Symphony or Damn.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and we all played on that. And that was another beautiful thing. Like,
beautiful album.
I'm calling him Terence because he was Terence at that time, but, you know, I want to make sure I show him love and respect. He's Sananda.
Sure.
But Terence at the time, he brought us into the studio, which is not common practice, you know, like a lot of times it's producer picks musicians and they're not the touring guys. So I was really, really grateful and proud to be a part of his recording band, you know, his touring band. I became his musical director.
That's right.
After the first run, you know, and he blessed me with that. So, I mean, and he really he treated it like a band, you know, like he wasn't like Terence Trent Darby and then my guys. He was like very inclusive and inviting, you know, and we hung out like a band. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that, without a doubt, is the greatest musical experience of my career for me. It's my favorite because of all those factors. The music was popping, you know, the hang was cool. There was love and respect, you know, he brought us in to record, you know, we did TV, we did big festivals. I mean, it was, to me, I was living the dream.
Absolutely.
And it really was like, that's what I dreamt of doing when I was a kid coming up. Like I want to like tour the world and, you know, and with well-known artists and do that whole thing. And it happened.
So have you been in contact? Are you in contact with Sananda? Don't mind me asking.
It's been a minute, man. The last thing we did was in 2001.
Okay.
Where we all flew over to Munich.
I went to Munich and the gig was cancelled, right? Or that maybe
during that time?
Yeah, or there was another gig in Munich that was cancelled. Maybe when after you guys. Yeah, I went one time to Munich. Didn't really like it because it was one, it's Bavaria, so it's different to very different mentality to Germany. And I was with my friend of color, and you could just sense the negative vibes. I mean, I'm just honest, right? It was just It was like, you know. And I hear a lot of my friends of color musicians will go to certain territories and they'll be like,
yeah.
But anyway, on a positive note, well, he didn't perform, but and then I think from Munich, then he moved to Italy and all that stuff. So
yeah, that was after that run we did. So we were all there like from late August 2001, and then we stayed there. Like we lived in Munich. We all had little apartments in a building.
Cool.
Which I thought was great, man. And so we were based there, and then we would kind of drive around to do gigs in Switzerland and Austria, you know, wherever. TV, go to London, like, you know, it was fun. It was fun for me. And we were just kind of like based in Munich and doing that. So after that run, I came back home and he invited me to come back the next year. And I had already accepted a gig here in LA. And I don't ever want to be that cat who like says yes and then Oh man, I don't want to have that reputation, so it didn't work out. But I think like we've communicated a couple times online. Francesca definitely has reached out a few times. But from what I can gather, like he's doing well in Italy, raising his family, basically.
Two young boys, beautiful wife. I mean, living the dream.
Yeah, he's living the dream. It's a different dream, and it's a peaceful, happy, healthy one. And Sananda Maitreya is his. I remember when we were in Germany, he told us he was changing his name, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I know you guys might make jokes about it, and and all." But I could see that he was 100% serious and sincere about it. So I never made any fucking jokes about it, because I could see that it was in his heart.
Yeah.
And that is something that he needed to do, for the next chapter of his life. So, we started.
He's releasing a lot of music. So,
Yeah.
None of we won't go into it, and that's his story to tell, but none of the bad experiences he had with the record company, so he's kind of like a lot of artists, you got direct access to your fans. The internet is it's different now. And, he's his own label. He can do what he like, creatively as well, experiment more. But coming back to you, so after Sananda, I mean, I saw that you did backing vocals. Did you play with Sheryl Crow as well?
No, we met her.
You met her?
We met her. Okay. We met her on tour. What year? That might have been 95. There's a cool photo that I found. I sent to you of us. We were in Russia.
Oh, right. Okay, right.
Yeah, we went to St. Petersburg in 95, and they had something called the White Nights Festival.
Okay.
Which is this time of year where it never really gets dark. It just kind of becomes dusk, and then it's dawn, and then it's the new day. Cool. So they had this festival running. I think it goes for like 2 weeks, and we were part of that. Wow. And Sheryl Crow was staying at the same hotel. I believe there was a jam session around the piano at the hotel with her that I missed because I was burnt out from the previous, stop. But we went to her show. We went to her show in St. Petersburg, and I got to meet her backstage, and she was super cool. Yeah, super cool. I really liked her. I was like, yeah, I would love to play with Sheryl Crow. She's a soulful woman. Yeah. So that's what that was. I'm sorry?
She sang backing vocals with Michael Jackson back in the day.
Yeah, she's an OG. Like, she's legendary.
She's an OG.
But she's a soulful woman.
We've got a few minutes left. So what I would like to do is do another interview with you. But let's just quickly talk about, so you write music for TV and films, and also with your wife, Ginger Murphy, for This Is Us. I'm not sure of that show. That's a show in the US. But also you did an album that you released called Gumbo Child, and I was listening to some of the tracks today, and particularly like Writings on the Wall, Listening There, and Round. So tell me quickly about the Gumbo Child. And how
Gumbo Child is that record is 100% inspired by my New Orleans roots.
Okay.
And the flavor on that record is how New Orleans feels to me. It's not trying to be traditional New Orleans. It's just how it feels to me, and that groove, and the family, and the food, and the way they talk, and the drawl, and the whole thing, and how I came up. And the way I came up, man, is like very much family oriented. My father is a twin. And his twin brother also had 6 kids, and we used to hang real tight.
Nice.
And my mother is the baby of 13 kids.
13.
I like that reaction. It's like, what? Yeah, she's the baby of 13. So I got lots of aunts and uncles. My dad was one of 4, but they're pretty prolific, like in that era, they made a lot of babies. Yeah. It was like a whole Catholic, Creole thing. So I have a lot of relatives, and we get together. We used to get together back then. My dad made sure that we were always getting together. And those get-togethers, they were very loud and they were very joyful. And there's a lot of laughter and there's always music and there's dancing and there's a lot of love. So I just wanted to like do a project that paid tribute to that. And, you know, I say I'm a gumbo child because I am, you know, of these New Orleans people. And we were raised on gumbo. We were raised on red beans and rice. We were raised on jambalaya. We raised, you know, we're serious about our food, Terry.
So, yeah. When I come to LA, we have to hang out and you have to get me Creole food. And
you got to come out to Claremont, man. My cousin is making these dishes. He's like a gourmet chef, but it's all based on recipes that he got from his mama. She got from her mama.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It goes back multiple generations, and the food is love. The food is culture. You know, the food, the music, the food.
So getting back to the music, I loved all the horns because that's a prominent part of New Orleans. I've never been. I'm one of my favorite artists, Lenny Kravitz. When he goes to New Orleans, you see everybody just playing in the street, and music is everywhere. I want to also quickly mention, I don't know if you know of Fantastic Negrito. Have you heard of him?
I have. I saw maybe like a Tiny Desk concert that he did.
Oh, he did? Okay, check him out because I know he's obviously very. I think he's from Oakland, California, but he likes the blues. I mean, he won a couple of Grammys for contemporary blues for his first 2 albums. But so what are you up to now? So you obviously keep writing and producing. Any plans for doing another album?
My wife and I did make a record called Sun Soul Orchestra.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that in the bio, but that's our creative unit.
Sure.
So we did that record maybe back in 2010. And I'm doing, like when I met my wife, she's a cellist. I just kind of on a whim, I said to her one day, you know, it'd be cool to do, like, she was playing in a string quartet. I was like, you know, it'd be cool to have a string quartet with percussion. And she said, yeah, that would be cool. You know, we should try something. And so she gave me an idea of a tune to cover. It was I Want to Know by Joe, the R&B artist.
Yeah.
And so what I was gonna do is like, I just put a percussion track together that I was gonna give to her and let her start putting an arrangement together. But when I got the groove going, I was like, well, let me just try, you know, like a little cello thing. And that sounded good. Oh, let me try to put the viola on and blah, blah, blah. Oh, let me put the second, let me put the verse. And I was hearing the parts, Terry, like that's the thing that I didn't know was gonna happen. I was hearing the parts. And so I actually finished the arrangement and I played it for her and she's like, damn, it's good. It sounds good. Did you like hear that? And I was like, yeah, I heard that. So I actually discovered a talent that I wasn't super aware. I've always done some arranging, but when I did that, and I've been doing that for the past 10 years or more, like I found out, oh, I do have a talent for this. So I've been focused on doing stuff with her.
Right.
And arranging for strings. I can also arrange for horns, which is what Gumbo Child, you know, I was like, I can't make a New Orleans record without horns.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It was trombone and sax and trumpet. Like, you know, when I think of New Orleans is piano too, but you know, when you're in the street, it's the horns.
Absolutely.
And it's the horns and the drums. So those elements were key for me. But I'm really enjoying working with strings and writing, and we are definitely working towards doing more licensing of music for TV and film. That's kind of where we're focused now.
Because the music industry is so different to when you were, you know, what's in the UK is only 2 majors. You don't get hardly any money for the streaming. You know, so obviously syncs and licensing is where it's at. And obviously if you're a touring musician, you're the artist, and it's the merchandising. But before I go, I saw that you worked with the wonderful Dave Wakeling, or how did you work with?
Yeah, man, that was a really fun thing. That was late 90s. Once again, you know, I want to shout out Jeffrey Connor.
Okay.
Because my favorite gigs that I've done all came through him. Terence Trent Darby came through him. Amel Leroux.
Yeah, another great artist. Yeah.
Okay. She is a big fan of Terence Trent Darby and Sananda Maitreya. And when they found out I had played with him, they were very excited. And she reminds me of him. And I love her in the same kind of way. She's a gifted writer, very gifted writer, great performer, great singer. She's like a female TTD. So anyway, I want to definitely mention her. But yeah, that came through Jeffrey. He's like, hey man, Dave Wickling is having an audition. And I went through there and he was kind of doing a cattle call. And I came through. That felt good. I remember his kids were in the room and they liked me. Oh. He said that's what tipped the scales in my favor. Like, my kids liked you because his kids look like me. You know?
Yeah, because he's playing here. I saw him in Philadelphia, met him a couple of times. 2019 when I went to America, and my friend said, "Come meet Dave," and he was lovely. And then I love the toaster with him, who's British Jamaican called Anthony First Class, who's with him now. And another friend of mine called Benji Webb. They got a band called Dub War. They did a song with Roger Rankin before he sadly passed away. But I mean, we'll definitely have to do another interview because this has been so much fun, and you know, definitely got to hang. If I can't make the Hollywood Bowl, Grace Jones is playing in September. I'll come later in the year to LA and then probably go to New York first because it's going to be cold there. I don't want to go in the cold. But my brother, this has been so wonderful, and you know, great to see. Even though it's like just on video, I've had so many great. And I want a big shout out to Louis Matoya, my brother.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and all the wonderful band members, and obviously Sananda and Francesca Maitreya, and thank you. And I can't wait to meet you in person. And this is TerryTopCat for TerryTopCat Purrsents for clusterview.com with Stevo Theard, amazing arranger, producer. We'll talk about backing vocals next time, drummer, congos. Been a pleasure, my friend. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terry. Look forward to the next get together.
Take care and enjoy your day. And thanks for giving your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my brother.
Take care.
All right.